Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Jacinta. If this is your first time here, thank you for stopping by. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how I made this dress you're seeing on your screen right now. If it's what you're interested in learning, kindly watch till the end. And if you're yet to subscribe, kindly hit on the subscribe button and also turn on the notification bell so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. So without wasting much time, let's get started with the tutorial. These are the fabric I'll be making use of. Here I have 1.5 yard of Ankara and 1 yard of crepe fabric. Starting off with the pattern drafting, from the tip of my pattern paper, I'll mark 2 inches downwards and square across, and I'll label down my shoulder line. Placing my tape on my shoulder line, I'll mark my bust line, which is 10 inches. I'll also mark my half length, which is 16 inches, and the full length. For the full length of this upper part, I marked 4 inches below my half length, which is 20 inches. 4 inches or 5 inches below your half length is okay for the full length of the upper part. After making these marks, I'll square across, and I'll also go ahead and label each line. Going back to my shoulder line, I will mark half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. Then on that point, I'm going to come down by 1.5 inches for my shoulder slant. I will also come inwards by 3 inches on the shoulder line, which is my neck width. And for my neck depth, I came down by 3 inches also. And I'll connect with a curved ruler. I'll also connect from the 3 inches neck width to the 1.5 inches I came down by to form my shoulder slant. Placing my tape on the shoulder slant, I'll mark 7.8 inches downwards for the armhole level, and on that point I'm going to extend the line and label it my chest line. Then I'll connect the armhole level to the shoulder slant using a straight line. I'll find the midpoint of that straight line. On the midpoint, I'll come in by ½ inch. Then on the chest line, I'll mark quarter of my bust circumference. I'll use my curved ruler to connect from the shoulder slant to the ½ inch I came in by to the quarter of my bust circumference that I marked on my chest line. This will form my armhole curve. The next thing I'll do now is to mark the dart. On my bust line, I'll come in by 4 inches. I'll also mark 4 inches on the half length and on the full length and connect with a straight line. Then on the half length, I'll come in by ½ inch on both sides of the dart line. I'll connect the ½ inch on both sides to the dart line on the bust line. I'll extend the dart legs to the full length and connect it to the half length, just like the way you see me doing. I'll mark half of my shoulder measurement and connect it to the bust line dart. On the center front, I'll mark 3 inches downwards from the full length. The next thing I will do now is to mark quarter of my round body measurement. On my chest line, I've already marked quarter of my bust circumference. And what I'll do now is to add 1.5 inch for sewing allowance. On the bust line, I will mark quarter of my bust circumference and add 1.5 inch for sewing allowance. On my half length, I will inbuild quarter of my waist circumference and add 1.5 inch for sewing allowance. I'll also replace the 1 inch dart, so I'm adding extra 1 inch by the side. Whatever I marked on the half length is what I'll also impute on the full length. After that, I'll connect the points. I'll also connect from the measurement I marked on the full length to the 3 inches I came downwards by on the center front for the backs, just like the way you see me doing. I will also extend the dart to the back line. What I will do now is to add ½ inch on the shoulder for joining of the front and back shoulder. I will also add ½ inch on the down part for joining of the gathers, and on the armhole also for turning the armhole. I'll go ahead now and cut this out. I was done cutting the front pattern. The next thing I'll do now is to draft the back pattern. I have marked 2 inches from the tip of my pattern paper, which is my shoulder line. I've also marked the other vertical measurements, which includes the bust line, half length and full length. The same measurements were marked for the front. On my shoulder line, I will mark 8 inches, which is half of my shoulder measurement. On that point, I'll come down by 1.5 inches for my shoulder slope, come in by 3 inches and connect it to the shoulder slope. From that shoulder slope, I will mark 7.8 inches downwards for my armhole level. On the points where the armhole level ended, I will extend the line, which becomes my chest line. I will also use a straight line to connect from the shoulder slope to the armhole level. I'll find the midpoint of the straight line. On that midpoint, I'll come in by ½ inch. I will also mark quarter of my bust circumference on my chest line. Then use my armhole curve to connect from the shoulder slope to the ½ inch I came in by to the quarter of my bust circumference I marked on my chest line. For the dart, I'll mark 4 inches on my bust line, half length and full length, and I'll connect with a straight line. On the half length, I'll mark half inch on both sides of the dart line. I'll do the same on the full length and connect it with a straight line. Then connect it upwards to the 4 inches I marked on the dart line, just like the way I'm doing. I'll use my ruler to connect from the dart line on the bust to half of my shoulder slant. What I'm going to do now is to mark part of my round body measurement. On my chest line and bust line, I've marked part of my bust circumference. I'll add 1.5 inches for sewing allowance. On my half length, I'll mark part of my waist circumference and add 1.5 inches sewing allowance. And I'll also replace the 1 inch dart. On the full length, I'll mark whatever I have on the waistline there. Then I'll come down by 3 inches for the basque effect and connect it to the full length like this. Then I'll go ahead and cut it out. Before cutting it out, remember to add half inch on the down part for joining of the gathers, and on the shoulder also adding half inch for joining of the front and back shoulder. I will extend the dart to the basque line. On the waistline, I'll come in by half inch from the center back. Connect it upwards to the neckline and downwards to the full length and cut it out. This is to avoid zipper bulge. After cutting it out, what I'll do is to cut it on my fabric. While cutting on my fabric, the only allowance I'm going to add is half inch for joining of this dart line and 1 inch on the center back for zip allowance. Every other allowance can be added on the pattern. For the down part, it has 2 step gathers, and if you could observe, the inner one is much longer than the one on top. For the inner one, which is the longer one, I marked 13 inches for the length and I added extra 2 inches, 1.5 inch for folding of the down part and ½ inch for joining, making it 15 inches. So the inner one, the length is 15 inches, while the one on top, which is the shorter one, the length is 6 inches plus 2 inches, 1.5 inch for folding of the down part and ½ inch for joining on the waistline, making it 8 inches for the length. For the wideness, it does not have any specific measurement. It depends on the amount of fabric you have. But if you want it to be very full, you times your hip circumference by 4. For me, I'm making use of the amounts of fabric the customer provided. So I was done cutting and I've also added ½ inch to this dart line that I will be joining, as you can see. What I will do now is to cut the facing I will use to turn the front and back neck. To do that, I will remove this pattern paper, fold the remaining pieces of fabric I have into 2 like this and place the center front piece on it. I'm going to cut exactly the shape of the neckline and shoulder. From the neck depth, I'll mark 3 inches downwards and connect it to the shoulder with a curve. Then cut it out. I'm going to be doing this for the back neck as well. I was done cutting it. Next thing I'll do now is to turn the neckline. To do this, I'll place this facing on the right side of the center piece and then join it using ½ inch. I'll do exactly the same for the back piece. I was done with that and this is what it looks like. What I will do now is to join the side front to this center front using the ½ inch that we added. I'll do the same for the back piece. I'll join the center back to the side back. I was marking this to differentiate the wrong side and the right side. I was done joining the front pieces and this is what it looks like. I've also joined the back pieces, as you can see, and I ironed this hairstay to the zipper area because I don't want any form of zipper bulge. You know, crepe fabric is stretchy. What I will do now is to join the front and back shoulder using ½ inch, and I'll also join the sides using the 1.5 inches we added for the sewing allowance. I'm also going to join this piece that I'll be using for the down part, both the long one and the short one. I'll use ½ inch to join them to form one long piece. After joining it, I'll fold the down part and I will gather the upper part. So I'll quickly do that and come and show you guys what next to do. I was done joining the shoulders and the side, as you can see, and I've also gone ahead to gather the skirt parts. What I will do now is to join it to the upper part using ½ inch. To do that, I will place it front facing front on this basque area and I'll start sewing it using ½ inch. As you're sewing it, use your hand to move and arrange the gathers just like the way I'm doing. So that is how you'll continue doing it from one zip side to the other zip side of the upper part. And you're going to do this for the long long and the short gathers. Take your time to do this so that one part will not be fuller than the other. I was done joining the gathers, as you can see, and this is what it looks like. Next thing I'm going to do now is to cut a piece of fabric of 1 inch that I'm going to be using to turn the armhole. Just like the way you turn with your bias, I'm going to turn the armhole that way. So after cutting this piece of fabric, you're going to cut 2 of these. You're going to place it on the back first, then use 1/2 inch to sew, then turn to the front side and sew on top. After that, you close the zip side, and that will be all for the cutting and sewing of this dress. If you find this video helpful, like, share and drop a comment, and do not forget to subscribe and also turn on the notification bell so you get notified whenever I upload a new video. Thanks for watching, and see you guys in my next tutorial.